Have you been to countless speech therapy appointments, practicing all of the sounds at home, doing every technique that your therapist is giving you to do? Maybe you've even had your child get a tongue tie or a lip revision and they're still frustrated. They're still finding their communication challenging. Or maybe they made some progress initially, but now you're seeing a plateau. And maybe you're wondering what's missing. Well, here is one piece that no one may have told you, is that we have to look at your nervous system, your child's nervous system, and see how that is functioning, and making sure that everything further upstream is functioning and firing properly to then allow for these therapy supports and interventions to be effective and helpful. Nearly 1 in 12 children in the US, ages 3 to 17, have experienced voice, speech, language, or swallowing disorders. So your child is not alone. Oftentimes, the focus is on the output, but like I said, we need to look at the input and the coordination piece as well. The answer might not be that your child needs more drills or more muscle exercises to fix the output. It could be that there's some nerve interference that's happening and contributing to the challenges that they're facing. I'm Dr. Donnie Beth Davis from Sozo Chiropractic, and I want to talk with you and share with you the 3-step neurological process that happens with speech development and function to hopefully help you gain a better understanding of what's going on, and then talk to you about the subluxations, the nervous system dysfunction, and the vagus nerve interference that could be creating a perfect storm for speech delays, and help you understand why addressing the root cause with neurologically focused care can unlock and create the breakthrough that you're wanting to have for your child. I want to tell you about a little girl who came into our office. She was about 10 years old, and she had been through a course of care with speech therapy, and both her and her mom and the therapist found that the progress was just not happening. They were up against a wall. No matter what they tried, they weren't able to help her in the way that she needed. We did an evaluation on her, went through her history, and through the conversation, it also came to light that she was also dealing with some hearing input. Her mom noted that when she watches TV, the volume was extremely high, and that her daughter would often ask for things to be repeated back to her. So we did an evaluation, we put together a care plan for her, and within a few treatments, when we were doing the check-in, the follow-up, I asked her, how are things going for you? What are you noticing? What's changing? And her response was, I think my speech is getting worse. And so we talked a little bit more about it, and what we came to realize was that she could hear the speech challenges better. And so in her perspective, it was worse, where really what was happening is as her hearing improved, she now had better input to make the changes and the corrections that she needed to for her speech. Her mom also noticed that she didn't need the volume as loud as she was watching TV. So we continued through her care plan, and once she got to a stable point, they brought speech therapy back into place, and within a short time frame, she was able to accomplish everything that she needed, and her speech is beautiful now. You would never know that there was once a challenge there. So you might be wondering, how does that work? How does chiropractic help with all of that? So let's break down the neurological perspective. So speech production is a complex, sequential 3-step process. So first is that sensory and auditory input, and that goes in through the brain. Then the brain needs to process all of that information and integrate it, and so therefore it's called integration. And then the final step is when the brain sends the coordination signals to the speech muscles, which then gives you the output. So most times the assumption is that the speech problem is with the output and with those muscles, where really it could be further upstream and be more of a processing challenge within the brain and the nervous system and that input that's coming in and how things are integrating. When nervous system and subluxation dysfunction interfere with these early stages, no amount of muscle exercises or speech drills are going to be able to fully compensate for the neurological breakdown that's happening. So what is a subluxation, you might be wondering, and how does that impact speech development? A subluxation is that misalignment that happens and that can create some reduced range of motion, but more importantly, the neurological interference within the nervous system. And that's going to then create a disruption between the brain and the body in that communication loop that's happening. This interference can affect those signals controlling those speech muscles and lead to the difficulties with motor planning, such as apraxia, or create some abnormal muscle tone, and that also will then contribute to coordination issues in the mouth, the face, or even the respiratory muscles. And so you might be wondering, well, how does this happen? How did my child develop the subluxation? Well, there's a lot of possibilities, and each situation and story is unique, but a lot of times what we see is that birth intervention can create stress and even injure the upper area of the neck. Things like forceps, vacuum extraction, or C-sections can create a lot of stress in the upper area of the neck, and that's where the brainstem is, and a lot of critical nerves as well. And those nerves are the ones that control speech and communication. I also want to talk to you about the vagus nerve specifically and how that ties into speech delays. So the vagus nerve controls your vocal cords through the recurrent laryngeal branch. So there's a fun fact for you. And that dysfunction can lead to problems with vocalization, pitch, volume, and speech clarity. Proper speech requires precise coordination of all those things, along with breathing and swallowing, and those are all under the direct influence of the vagus nerve. So if there's dysfunction within the vagus nerve, it's going to dysregulate the autonomic nervous system and your stress response, and that's going to keep the child in a fight or flight mode, which then is going to further exacerbate their speech and communication problems. So as a pediatric, neurologically focused chiropractor, what we are looking to identify is the root cause and to find out where the challenge is specifically within your child's nervous system. We use a tool called an insight scanner, and it helps us to precisely locate and measure the subluxation and the nervous system dysfunction. And this is something that is unique to only chiropractors. So, in conclusion, speech delays are often not only a mouth or a tongue challenge. There's also the nervous system coordination that needs to be addressed. That three-step process of the input, the sensory input, the coordination in the brain, and then the expression of speech through the output are so important. And chiropractic care works to restore that connection between the brain and the body and help on the front end of the process for speech. And then what we found is if we can get the nervous system functioning as it can, the speech therapy is going to be much more effective, much less frustrating, and ultimately your child's communication is going to be where you want it to be. If this is something you want to learn more about and find out how we can help your child specifically, reach out to us. Send us a message, give us a call. We'd be happy to answer your questions and tell you what we can do to help.